Hello, everybody. I'm Rikki Smith. Welcome to Faith on Friday
Faith
Presents.
on Friday, step into what's possible with Rikki
At Faith
Smith.
on Friday Presents, our goal is to drive motivation by closing the door on the comfort zone, to foster inspiration by showing you what's possible, and to create transformation by challenging those negative, unproductive mindsets. And while you're here, don't forget, subscribe to this YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, check us out on Instagram, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to share this with your network. All right, folks, you hear it a lot. Resilience. What does it mean? Where does it come from? Are you born with it? Do you have to go through something to get it? Or is it something that happens without you knowing? Well, today we're going to talk to somebody who's going to tell us about resilience, where he got it from. We're going to talk about his book and all the fun things. But first of all, everybody, please say hello to my guest, Terry Healey. Woo! 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 Hi, Terry. How are you?
Hey, Ricky, thanks for having me. I look
Oh my
forward to
gosh.
this.
Thanks so much for coming and being here with me. And I've been looking forward too, because I
Absolutely.
have questions, sir. But
Go.
before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're located.
Yeah, I'm married to my wonderful wife of 31 years, I guess now. We live in Santa Cruz, California, which is on the coast, about 60 miles south of San Francisco.
Wow. You sounds like you have a rough life, you poor thing. On the coast
Yeah,
of San
it's
Francisco. Oh,
you
whatever.
know,
The struggle must be real.
I grew up in the area, so I guess I
Okay.
didn't I didn't venture far, I guess.
Okay. There you go. So maybe that says other things about you, but we'll get into that. First of all, Terry, thank you for being here. Thank you for what we're about to talk about because I've learned some things about you. And though we're talking about resilience, let's start off there. Because one of the questions that you sent me that I thought was so brilliant is let's talk about what happened in 1984 when you, a 20-year-old young guy, what happened? Because I know people were like, 1984, I don't even know where I was. Well, some of y'all weren't born. Let's start there. But for those of us that were, Terry, tell us a little bit about what was going on in 1984.
Well, I was a junior at UC Berkeley. I was, like I say to many people, I was living life on Easy Street. Everything was great, right? I had hit all the milestones that I wanted to hit by that point. I was a homecoming prince in high school, an athlete, all that stuff. And
Mhm.
then out of the blue, I get a bump behind the right side of my nose. And long story short is I eventually got this diagnosis of this incredibly rare form of cancer called a fibrosarcoma. And so that was the beginning of my journey, not just with cancer, but
Mhm.
more importantly for me, I think, was my journey with disfigurement and
Wow.
having to deal with 30 procedures over the course of 5, 6 years.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you.
So
You went
thoroughly
through
changed my life.
30 procedures?
Yes, over about a 5 to 6 year period. Yeah,
Still.
some of those were cancer, going
Yeah.
back in and getting the cancer, and most of them were reconstructive.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily the reason I had so many was they kept trying, they kept trying. They had difficulty. It was a complex case.
I can imagine. But here
Yeah.
you are, you're 20 years old. You've gone through these things up until you're at 26, 27.
Yep.
Terry, what was going through your mind? How was your heart? How was your mindset at that time?
Well, I would say that I have my faith to be grateful for because that
Yeah.
was foundational for me. I
Mm,
grew up with that. And so that gave me courage, it gave me strength. It helped me keep hope through the process. But I will be
yeah.
honest with you, as you would expect, I went through a lot of difficult times
Yeah.
where, appearances matter so much when you're 20,
Oh,
21, 22,
sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what life seems to revolve around at that
Mm-hmm.
stage of life. So,
Right.
yeah, it changed my the way I interacted with people. Unfortunately, I started to lose my confidence and my self-esteem, and it
Right.
really took many years to recognize that surgery wasn't going to fix the scars that were far deeper on the inside than the
Mm-hmm.
outside.
Yeah.
So that was a wake-up call for me that came from a woman that I met, and
Mm-hmm.
she was really the spark plug that changed me and changed the
Mm-hmm.
direction that I was going to take.
Yeah. Now, I know you said during that time, or not during that time, but later on, you wrote one of your first books at that time. And what was the name of your book?
Yeah, the first book I wrote was At Face Value, which was a memoir, or which is a
Wow.
memoir about my
Mhm.
experience. It was really written, Ricky, as a therapeutic process that turned into something I didn't expect.
Sure.
Turned into a book that a publisher picked up, and companies and associations and
Wow.
nursing groups started calling me and saying, "Hey, can you come present at our conference?" I wasn't prepared for that. Greatest
Oh,
thing that ever
sure.
happened, because that's what pushed me in this
Hmm.
new direction to say, hey, if I'm going to get in front of a group of people, a group of anybody, I have
Yeah.
to be confident. I have to be prepared. So
Hmm.
that's all about confidence, right? So I
Yeah.
had to figure out a way to do that
Oh
again
my
and
gosh.
recover that what I'd
Yeah.
lost.
Then recover what you lost. I love that because so many of us will go through things in our 20s, in our late teens, early 20s, early 30s. And we, of course, think that this is the worst thing on the planet. And we are
Yeah,
never, ever going to be okay.
that's right.
And then, like you said, something happens that okay is no longer an option. It's mandatory. So moving forward, how did you become okay when people were like, "Hey, Terry, we want you to come," knowing that they're calling you for what has happened to you? How did you find the confidence to go stand up there and do what they were expecting you to do?
Because I think I looked at it as this is a gift, really. Like there's a
Wow.
reason this is happening. I
Hmm.
have to figure out a way. Now I was working and stuff, and so I did present regularly and stuff, but I
Sure.
think it was a facade in many ways. It's like I pretended, right? I
Yeah.
pretended that. But what I learned, Ricky, early on in my career that helped me in that process of presenting in front of these groups was preparedness, right? I was somebody that knew that in
Hmm.
order to be confident in front of a group, I had to be prepared. I had to know what all the objections might be.
So good.
I would know how to handle them. I was
Hmm.
going to be the most prepared person that walked in that room.
Yeah.
And when you
That's
do
good.
that, you know this, you speak all the time. You're more confident. You're confident when you're prepared.
Yeah. When
Now,
you're
Johnny
prepared.
Carson didn't just, reel stuff off the top of his tongue. He
Hmm.
didn't. He was a
Yeah.
very prepared guy.
Yeah. But
So,
that's a gift to, again, some folks are watching, they're like, Johnny who? I'm like, don't worry, he's really neat. But for comedians who do that, who make it look like they just,
yeah.
spitballing it, they are very well prepared. One of the things you said is that, preparing for some of the objections. I'm going to ask you this because I can hear people asking me it in my head. What kind of objections did you go through or have to come through to get here? You're in your 20s, you've got this thing going on with you. Here you are, the man that you looked like before no longer exists. This is your new reality. What kind of things did you have to get over from people?
I guess I felt, Ricky, like people were looking at me differently, like they were judging me as somebody that was inadequate or something,
Wow, so good.
okay, this guy is, he's a charity case. I used to think like that
Mm-hmm.
for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And what I realized is like most people, you're giving yourself too much credit, Terry. It took me time to figure this out. People aren't really spending that much time looking at us, honestly. They're not
Right.
spending that much time thinking about us, especially
Mm-hmm.
when they don't know us, right?
Yeah.
They're moving about their own life. And so
Mm-hmm.
don't think everybody's, don't internalize it as somebody is like out to they're noticing me. They notice I
Yeah.
look different. That's not true. They're probably just glancing in that direction, and it happens to appear
Right.
they're looking
Ugh,
at you.
that's so good. So that speaks about mindset. So let's jump forward a little bit. So now you are the all things, you are the it, you are a published author, you're doing all the things, you're speaking all over the place. By this time, I'm sure you've married the love of your life and,
Yep.
and this thing. So now, during that time, you've gotten what's your mindset like at that time?
So the key for me was having a positive mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
how I've found a way to instill that in myself was practicing gratitude. It's always been the key to my
Mm-hmm.
existence. And I think that stems all the way back to the faith I had as a
Yeah.
kid, right? But when
Mm-hmm.
you practice gratitude, um, it puts you, it accelerates your ability to be in a positive mindset because you
Okay.
suddenly realize like there's a million things that I should be grateful for.
Sure.
Um, real quick anecdote. I touched base with a friend of mine this morning. He got in
Mm.
a bad bike accident,
Oh, wow.
bruised all his ribs, got 9 stitches. He ran into a car. He took his eye off the ball and he ran into a car.
Wow. Mm.
Anyway, long story short is I've been touching base with him each day, and I
Mm.
just said, "How you doing today?" And he said, grateful that every day is a little bit better, but let me tell you, I'm in terrible pain. But
Yeah.
at
I love
least
that.
it was about, gratitude,
Yeah.
really. It could
Yeah.
have
The
been worse.
reality with the gratitude, because it's real. You hit a parked car and you're hurting. And
Yeah.
so, but like you said, the gratitude of it could have been 10 times worse.
Yeah.
So now let's move forward some more. Now you've written a new book about resilience. It's called The Resilience Mindset. Tell us a little bit about the book first and where that resilience mindset came from.
Yeah, the resilience mindset is really about how adversity can strengthen us as individuals, as teams, and as leaders by helping us to build resilience,
Mm.
to gain confidence, and to find greater purpose. That's really what it's about. And what it stemmed from, Ricky, was those presentations that I was giving from the
Mm.
last book over many years.
Mhm.
People would come up to me and they'd say, I read your memoir before you presented. I know your
Yeah.
story, but in your presentations, you talk about all these toolkits, these frameworks, these ways to help other people deal with adversity. You need to write
Mhm.
another book. So I don't take credit for it. I say that it's really the audiences that said, you need to create a workbook, something that can help other people deal with adversity. So that framework is really the core of the book. It's
Right.
really practical, executionary activities that you can employ in your own life to personalize it to your own journey.
That is so good. One of the things you said, though, that stuck out, build resilience.
Yeah,
To me, that says you're not born with it.
right.
It needs to be built. How do we build resilience here?
It's about practicing and developing new habits, really, and doing them every single day.
Hmm.
And that's really what my resilience framework that I call ReBAR is all about, right?
Yeah.
It's a set of tools to help people pick and choose. You don't have to do all of them, but pick
Hmm.
and choose the things that you can make a habit out of. Give it 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
but habits such as reflection. Reflection is, for me anyway, it's about starting with gratitude.
Hmm.
When you do that, we've talked about this already, but
Sure.
it does change your perspective.
Hmm.
Your lens on life changes immediately. It's like, wow, things aren't so bad.
Yeah.
But practicing gratitude is so key. That's one. There's many, many others.
Yeah. So
But
just
yeah, it's
real quick.
about, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, I do think that we can, each and every one of us can build resilience. I don't
Yeah.
think it's just you have it or you don't. There's
Mhm.
there's things you can do every day. It's
Yeah,
about surrounding yeah,
you hit on the rebar. So I want to talk about that because that is a practical tool and a system that people and organizations can help build resilience. All right, before we talk about the rebar thing, talk to me the difference between personal resilience and organizational resilience.
yeah. It's a really interesting concept. I think individual resilience is really something that we can control.
Hmm.
We can um, find ways to build hope. We can find support mechanisms,
Sure.
people that help give us strength along the way.
Hmm.
Um, we can share our vulnerabilities. All those things help us become more resilient.
Yeah.
In a workplace environment, which is a more systemic kind of thing,
Hmm.
you need certain things in place for resilience to be enabled, if you will, right? You need a supportive work environment. If you're
Hmm.
part of a toxic work environment that doesn't encourage new ideas, that is political, that's backstabbing, you're probably going to have a pretty difficult time finding resilience as an opportunity.
Hmm.
But if it's the kind of environment that supports failure, like Failure is a good thing, right?
Wow.
Failure is something we should talk about every single week because that's what we learn.
So
That's,
good.
you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
when you learn, that's all about a growth mindset. So to me, that's like Google's famous for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like they had this real quick. They have this thing on Fridays where, and I don't know if they still do it, but they had this thing on Fridays where engineers and others could spend their Friday on doing whatever they wanted, a personal project.
Mm-hmm.
That's where many of their great products came out of. It's
Yes.
the passion that they had. Somebody came up with the idea for Google Maps that way. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
something that, some leader said, we're going to build Google Maps.
Right.
It was some guy playing around. He's like, hey, this is pretty cool. We should
Mm-hmm.
do this. So I love that kind of
Awesome.
stuff.
Yeah, me too. I think of, parents and with their kids and, the best place for kids to fail is at home, where you have a
Yeah,
safety net, where
that's
you
right.
can learn from it. Because when you get out there, failure looks a whole lot different. The consequences are different. So when you say failure is a good thing, explain that a little bit because I hear 10,000 people going,
Okay.
in my mind, 10,000 people are watching. Anyway, in my mind,
Yeah.
10,000 people are going, failure's a good thing? Absolutely not. What do you say to that?
So here's a good example to explain it. So I learned from a leader named Peter Alexander,
Mhm.
great guy. He oversaw this huge marketing organization. And every month we had to present key performance indicators on the marketing programs that we ran, the campaigns
Mhm.
that we ran. So every month, he also gave an award for the person that failed, the person that had these
Wow.
grand aspirations but failed. And
Okay.
what came out of that was you had to present. Why did it fail? What did I learn from this? What would I
Hmm.
take away from this and apply going forward? And I'll tell you, when that person was standing in front of the room, nobody was looking at him and laughing. They were
Right.
looking at him like, wow, that's some interesting insight, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Because he went these are people that typically go out on a limb and they try something that
sure.
isn't tried and true, right? It's like, I'm gonna take a risk. So taking a risk and failing is okay.
Hmm.
That's how things get built in the real
That's
world
so
anyway.
true.
They don't
Yeah.
just get built right the first time. You think
Hmm.
every car on the road was built right the first time? Hell no.
Absolutely not. It makes me think of who is it said, I want to say Benjamin Franklin, that
Yes,
was it him
it
who
was him.
said that necessity is the mother of invention?
I think so. And he's
Because,
the
yeah, and
yeah.
he's the quintessential failure. And he failed at lots of really cool stuff, though.
Yes, he did.
But he found out some things.
Yep.
I think that is so awesome. So now, with all the things that you've gone through and been through, you've come up with this ReBAR system. Tell us a little bit about what ReBAR is and what it stands for.
So ReBAR is my resilience framework to help people build resilience. It's represented by four key phases: reflect, build, act, and renew. I can touch on those really quickly if you want,
Sure, go
from a
ahead.
from a personal growth standpoint. So reflect is really this idea that we find 5 to 10 minutes a day to reflect. And what do I mean by that? You start with gratitude. Think of you wake up or you go on your walk, whatever time of day you want to do it.
Mhm.
What am I grateful for? You start there, it puts you in a positive mindset, and then you step back and do an audit of your day. Did I learn anything today? Was I inspired by something today? If I was
Ah,
inspired by something, is that something I can apply to my life tomorrow? It helps you to take risks
hmm.
because you're in a positive mindset when you're doing it. But it's about building a daily habit, something that's
Yeah,
a habit, and you start to recognize inspirations that come your way. We are way too busy. People don't take the time to step back and think about a conversation they just had. They just
right,
don't. They
right.
move on to the next one. So
Hmm.
then you move into build. Build is really about developing a positive mindset. It's about developing that growth mindset. So this is when we surround ourselves with the people, the team of people that we trust. This is when we
Hmm.
find how we're going to figure out life balance. This is when we choose positive because we choose our attitude.
So
And
good.
this is when we start to practice our faith, if
Hmm.
that's important to us. As you
Hmm.
move into act, act is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is when you start to face challenges. This is when you take control. This is when you get focused
Hmm.
and set goals. And so I think of this as execution mode. It's when you
Hmm.
start to make progress against that adversity, against that
Right.
change or that
Hmm.
conflict. Lastly, renew. We kind of touched on this a second ago.
Hmm.
Renew is really the commitment to the process. It's when you step back and think about what you learned.
Right.
What did I learn from this? And by the
Hmm.
way, what skills and characteristics do I embody that enabled me to get through this? And
Hmm.
think about that because that helps build your confidence. That means you have some traits and characteristics that are
Sure.
pretty powerful and positive.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
That's so
so
good.
it's how do you become a better version of yourself? What did you learn? How can you
Hmm.
apply that to your life every day? So in
Yeah.
a nutshell, that's kind of what it. So what there is, there's questions in my book through each
Hmm.
section, right? So that people
Okay.
can personalize to their own journey and take away something actionable.
Yeah. Because, like I said, everyone's journey is different,
Yes.
but you can all get to that state of resilience. So now, with all the things that you've done, gone through, written all the books and everything, what are you doing now, Terry? What are you up to now?
So what I'm doing now is really living my purpose, Ricky.
Oh, I love it.
So I was a career high tech guy, but now today I am just writing. I wrote another article this morning for
Okay.
California Monthly Magazine. I'm writing, I am speaking, and just talking about my book and my
Mhm.
framework. So
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate that I'm able to do that
It sounds like you're living your best life right now.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm going to ask you this question right now that I usually ask later, but I now it begs, what would you tell your 20-year-old self right now after knowing what you know now and knowing what he's getting ready to go through? What would you tell him?
I would say embrace change because
Mhm.
you will gain tremendous wisdom.
Wow,
Don't
that's
fear
huge.
it, embrace it.
Yeah, that's so good. Wow. Terry, there's so much here and so much to talk about. If somebody else wanted to reach out to you, finish this conversation, or work with you, or find out how they can book you to speak, where's the best place for them to find you?
Best place is my website, which is terryhealey.com.
Cool. And what kind of things are we finding out there?
So what you'll find on there are the speaking topics that I have. You'll see all my testimonials and past clients. You'll see videos. You'll see articles and great
Cool.
podcasts like this one with Rikki Smith. I will have that on there. Uh, yeah, just resources as well, which
Yeah,
is really important. Resources to help other people deal with
yeah.
disfigurement,
Mm-hmm.
deal with whatever
Wow.
cancer, rare types of cancer, all those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things. There's a lot
Yeah.
of resources.
That's so cool. Don't worry, everybody. If you did not get that contact information, everything is going to be in the description below. And don't forget, while you're here, subscribe to this YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, give us a thumbs up, and share this with your network. Terry, my friend, before I let you go, we got to play a game. Whoop, whoop,
Okay,
whoop.
here we go.
I know. This game is called This or That. I'm going to give you the choice of a couple things, and you, my friend, just tell me which one you like the best. Are you
Okay,
ready to play?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Here we go.
This or that, this or that. Make your choice. No looking back. This or that.
All right. First one, flowers or plants?
Flowers.
Really? I don't know
Yeah,
why. I'm surprised at that, but that's kind of cool.
because they're
Moonlight,
beautiful.
go ahead. Because they're beautiful?
Brightness, color, beauty,
Yeah. They're cheery.
inspiration, cheery. There's a better word. Yeah.
I like cheery. I'm sure it's a very technical term. Moonlight or candlelight, Terry?
Moonlight.
Okay. I'm sensing romance here. You're a romantic kind of guy. I'm sensing that right now. All right. Go all day or I need a nap.
Go on a date.
You want to go on a date. I like it.
Was that the question?
No, but that's even
Oh,
better.
what was
I'm
the
telling you,
question?
romance, y'all. Are y'all sensing the romance? It was go all day or
Oh,
take a nap.
go all day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard
The-
something else.
Honey, all of your romantic this is all out in the open. Everybody now knows what's going on here. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Sorry.
Exercise or extra fries?
Exercise.
Oh, very nice, very
Key
nice.
to my existence.
Oh, okay. There's that. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince.
Ooh! Me too. What's your favorite Prince song?
Oh my God, he was one of the most talented, amazing musicians of all time. That's a really hard question.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm here
I,
for, to ask all the hard questions.
I have to
Deep,
think about
hard-hitting.
that. I can't answer that.
You already did, sir. You said Prince. We're moving on. I don't even care. And finally, my friend, what is the best advice you have ever given?
When you struggle with attitude, practice gratitude.
Okay, say that again for the kids in the back.
When you struggle with attitude, practice gratitude.
I
Changes
love
everything.
that. I love that. I'm writing that down because
Thank
I'm
you.
going to need it later. Terry,
No,
thank you
you
so
won't.
much for being with me today. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Rikki. I enjoyed it.
Yay, me too. All right, everybody. That's it for this week, but don't worry. We'll be back next week with more Faith on
Step into
Friday
what's
presents.
possible.